Welcome to a Thrifty Notion's 3 Thrifty Things, monthly inspiration for mindful makers. In every episode, we're sharing a trio of bite-sized ideas we're loving for the season, from DIY projects to sustainable living tips. Are you ready to see what this month has to offer?
Hi, I'm Liv, and welcome to the January 3 Thrifty Things video. These are our little series of videos that just give 3 little tips for thrifty living. These tips are usually related to sewing or just like frugal, thoughtful, more intentional living. This month we have some tips about organizing and purging, and then a fun little craft. So hopefully you will enjoy and maybe be inspired. Hey, so this tip is about just general everyday organizing and making it easier for yourself to actually purge and do things that you're trying to do. Like, I'm just always about simplifying things, removing points of friction to make it easier for me to do the things I want to do. So, decluttering my house. I use this strategy in various places throughout my house where clutter tends to pile up. So what I do is I have a hamper or laundry basket or just some kind of container at various points in my house for stuff that I want to send to the thrift store. So I have one by my door, my basement door, which is where I will load stuff up and put it in the car. Anything that's from the household that needs to go to the thrift store, I just throw it in there. I have one next to my closet in my bedroom. So it's just a cute wicker hamper that I thrifted, and it just looks like decoration, but it's actually hiding all of the items that I don't want to wear anymore, clothing, shoes, whatever. And then I host regular clothing swaps with people. So I just save up all the clothes in the hamper, and we try to do one per quarter or, per season basically. So then I will just bag up everything, take it to the swap, and then whatever's left at the end of the swap, I then take to a thrift store. So the last place I use this strategy is in my sewing room. I keep a basket in my sewing room for things I want to take to Thrifty. Yes, it's my store. Yes, I have too much stuff in my sewing room. Yes, I need to declutter. In fact, it's almost worse because as the stuff comes in, I get to cherry pick all the best things and be like, ooh, that's coming to my house. But then, inevitably, there are just always more ideas than time to do things. So I will lose the inspiration or just get real with myself and be like, I am never going to actually use this, beautiful as it is. And so I put it in that basket to take back to the shop to list it and share with all of you. So hopefully this little tip is useful to you. Whatever kind of cute container you can find to put in the various places to help you get things out of your house. It also is nice if you're a person who worries that you might still need it someday. You can throw it in there and it's not a permanent commitment. If you throw it in there, it's going to sit in there for a while it piles up, and it gives you a little bit of time to change your mind, but maybe also just makes you feel more secure in knowing like, yes, I definitely am not going to use that thing. It's okay to let it go. I hope this helps somebody besides me. Hey, so welcome to my basement. We're completely snowed in right now, and I figured this would be a good time to talk to you about my deep pantry. So back in 2020, when we saw what was happening in China and then what happened in Italy with COVID, we were like, man, we should probably stock up on groceries. And I was like, I don't want to go full prepper, but I do want to be prepared for emergencies. So I went to a website called The Prepared. They don't allow conspiracy theories on their website. So all of their message boards and forums and things, it's just about prepping for emergencies, and they give you options for the different levels of preparation. So ours is what is called deep pantry. Deep pantry means that you just keep extra on hand of things that you already use. You don't go out and try to, you don't just go out and buy enough for today's recipes. You go get extra. And then when you next time need something like black beans, you may already have 3 cans of black beans, but you go ahead and buy 2 more for your recipe. And then you put the 2 new ones that you just bought in the back of the row, and you use the 2 older ones that are at the front. So you always have 5 or 6 cans of black beans in your house. You just use the older ones first and you keep rotating it through. It's called FIFO. first in, first out. It's the FIFO method. So on Amazon, you can buy these FIFO rolling can storage shelves, and they do the same thing. If they're level, which this is on my deep freeze, so it is not level, the can here, and it rolls, bloop, and it comes to the front. So as I buy new ones, I just put them on there. Like I stock up on pumpkin in December after all the holidays are over and the pumpkin is on sale. So I have a bunch, but I don't use these anymore because we changed our shelving. We found this on Facebook Marketplace. It's a U-line shelf, which I have thoughts on U-line, but anyway, this one was used. I bought it secondhand and it's already slanted. So if we just put the food in at the back, then the one at the front is the oldest. So I have all of the things that I use on a regular basis on this shelf, and I try to keep extras all the time. I like to have at least 3 of everything. Stuff like condiments, I might just have 1 backup, but as I use the backup, I buy a new one. So we've always got 1 extra, or we try to. So don't buy food you're not actually going to eat. Buy food you're always buying, because that's probably what you're going to want to eat in an emergency, such as a snowstorm, which is kind of what we're in the middle of right now. We're pretty snowed in. We can get out to the grocery store if we want to, but they really want us to stay off the roads. Yeah, we might run out of milk or bread, but we will not starve. The other great thing about this is if you have a financial emergency, you can just kind of skip the grocery store for a while and just work your way through your deep pantry. So highly recommend that. Another thing I have that's kind of tucked away in this really dark corner under the stairs are these 5-gallon buckets. These are food grade buckets, but I don't have this full of just like loose flour. The bags of flour are in this bucket. This is just to keep that kind of thing fresh and keep bugs and mice from getting to it. So I've got one for oats, I've got one for rice, got one for sugar. So that's super handy to have. Also, if you don't have one and you have space for one, a deep freeze is a good idea. You can freeze things like broth and leftovers and just keep them in there. And then, especially if you don't open it much, but instead of like a front loading freezer, when you open this door, all the cold air falls out. When you open a deep freeze, the cold air mostly stays in there. So it's less likely to thaw out as you're taking things out of there. If you don't have room for this kind of a shelf system, you can still make do. There are tubs that will fit, like storage tubs that will fit under your bed, that you could put all the cans in and just slide it out, take out the cans you need, and then slide it back under the bed. You can get creative with different places to stash your staples around your house, just all in the nooks and crannies. These little shelves are also stackable, so you can just put a whole bunch. These are on my dirty basement floor, but there's 2 of them stacked up right there. So those are pretty great. They also fit in your refrigerator, so if you put soda on them or seltzer or whatever, they'll feed through and you can have cold drinks in your fridge. So pretty handy. I got these on Amazon, but they're probably available in all kinds of other places too. Anyway, this is kind of a glimpse into our 1 shelf deep pantry. Hey, so welcome to my sewing room. Today I'm going to show you how to make these cute little strawberries. You can do all kinds of things. You can go sparkly like I did with this one, or you can go a little more muted, a little more antique. You can do singles like, oh, where'd he go? I had one here. Here you go. You can do singles like this. I put a little bit of essential oil in this one so you could hang it over a hanger, and it's got cedar oil in it, so it helps repel moths. You can also use them as Christmas tree ornaments, or you can string them up as a garland. There's just all kinds of things you can do with these, and they are super easy to make. You don't need a pattern. You just make your own, and I'll show you how. So first you need a circle, a jar, a cup, a plate, something that's around 4 inches. You don't want to go too much smaller than like 3.5 inches because it just gets very tiny and hard to work with, but you really just need a half circle. So I just trace onto some trash. Cereal boxes make really good patterns if you just open those up and use that cardstock. This is a brown paper bag. You just trace it out and then you cut it out, which I am not going to use my fabric scissors for. And then you can either use a full, like a half circle, or if you want your strawberries to be a little bit pointier, you can just cut a little slice so that it's slightly less, this had kid art on it, slightly less than a half circle. So then you cut out your red fabrics with this. And after you've cut out your red fabric and you have your little kind of halfway red half circle, you're gonna take it, I like the shiny satin side of this one for the strawberries. So you're gonna take it and fold it right sides together with about 1/8 to 1/4 inch seam. I just did a whole stack of these on my sewing machine. You can also do this by hand. It's an excellent by hand project because it's just this one little seam you have to sew. So if you don't have, you know, if you're out and about and you don't have your sewing machine, you can just do it by hand. But I like to zip a whole bunch of them through the sewing machine really quickly and then put them in my handwork basket so that I can just take it with me when I'm sitting waiting for children in a parking lot, like picking them up from school activities or whatever. I'll just have a whole bunch of these pre-sewn. So the next step is to turn it inside out. This one actually had yellow dots on it. It's a upholstery sample scrap. And I was like, oh my gosh, looks like strawberry seeds. All right, so once you've got it turned right side out, you're gonna take it and by hand, you're just gonna do a running stitch. You're gonna wanna pull it later. You're sort of making like a tiny drawstring bag. So you just do a running stitch about 1/8 to 1/4 inch from the top raw edge of the strawberry. And you're gonna go all the way around. And as you're doing this, at some point, you want to take your little loop that you're going to use to hang it up with. It's about 6-inch piece of rickrack here. Ribbon works too, or various decorative trims, whatever you want to make a loop with. I just happened to have a bunch of green rickrack, so I went with it. You can take that and just kind of put the ends back in here and try to catch that with your running stitch as you're going through. Now this is just going to tack it in place. This is not the final, this is not how we're securing it, I guess. You will stitch through that rickrack a bunch more times as we continue on in the project, but might as well tack it in there while we're going through. So with that running stitch, you just go all the way around until you get back to the beginning. And then you kind of pull it tight. It's like a little drawstring, except that you need to stuff it. So this is where I take the opportunity to use the scraps from my serger, the little basket that catches all the little bits that the serger trims off. I just use these for stuffing. I also use the little bits left over from cutting out the strawberries. So all the little scraps from that, shove that right in there too. These do not need to be like soft and squishy because they're not like a toy or anything. They're decorative, so they can be a little sturdy. They don't have to be super soft with polyfill. You can just use trash. You do want to try and pack them pretty full because you want them to be like plump and juicy, not like, I don't know, you don't want them to get too flattened out. So shove a bunch of trash bits in there, and this is your opportunity to throw in some essential oil. One drop is plenty. This is cedar, which a strawberry that smells like cedar is a little weird, but it does keep the moths away. I also have lavender and rosemary. Those also work for moths. All right, so you shove all that trash in there, and then you just pull it tight with that string you've got running through there. And then to secure it, you just kind of go through all of that gathered edge back and forth a few times. Just stab through. And while you're at it, maybe try to stab through the rickrack a couple of times just to help secure that in place. Right, so this is, if you're detail oriented and you want matching thread, here is where you will tie off your red thread, and then you're gonna get a green thread for the leaves. So I'm gonna go ahead and tie off my red thread, do a couple of knots, and then stab the needle back through the strawberry just to bury the thread, and then snip it off. Next, I'm going to put away the red thread and grab my green thread. For the leaves, I just use a green fabric. This one's sparkly, but this one matches the rickrack better. All right, all you do for the leaves is you cut a few triangles out. So what I usually do is cut a strip, and then from the strip I cut triangles. And I find that like 3, 4, 5, kind of depends on how big my triangles are, but you just start stitching the triangles in place. And I try to do the wide end, I don't know, I try to make the pointy long part point downward around the strawberry. So you're going to just go through those gathered bits and through the rickrack and just tack down the leaves. And I really just tack down the top part and let the bottom part hang a little loose because it just kind of looks a little fluffier and cuter. So honestly, 3 or 4 stitches is really all it takes because this is just decorative. It's not going to be played with. Well, it might be, depends on your house. So you just make your way around, kind of overlapping a little bit on these leaves. And when you are done, go ahead and tie off your green thread. And you will have a cutie little guy. See how these leaves are kind of sticking out a little bit? It just adds a little, well, I smushed them, but it just adds a little bit of fun and character, and they're just a little cuter with their messy hair. So you can make a whole bunch of these. I took the rickrack on these little things. I just put a single strand of rickrack in there and then made clusters of 3 and tied them together with a bow and some beads and a loop. And these are Christmas ornaments, or you can, like, honestly, they'll work for any time. Anytime. So if you wanted to hang them on the wall as just like a cute little decoration, they're just sort of multi-purpose, cute little strawberry decorations. Hopefully this is helpful and you want to give it a try. Well, wasn't that just darling? Those strawberries are so much fun. I've been making them and using them as little sachets in my closet, just hanging them over the hangers, but they're just cute and you can just make a ton of them and just have strawberries all over the place. Give them away, be the strawberry fairy. Hopefully you were inspired and found some good ideas and maybe some ways to simplify or declutter. If you are into secondhand, sustainable crafting, you should definitely check out our website at thriftynotion.com, where we sell secondhand fabric and sewing supplies so that you can just craft and sew a little more thoughtfully and intentionally. Also, if you found this interesting or informative, or if you'd just like to keep tabs on what we're up to, definitely subscribe. We would really appreciate it. Happy sewing!